welcome to this edition of the Law Firm Blueprint. I'm one of your hosts, Jay Ruane, and with me, as always, is my man, Seth Price. Seth, how you doing this week?
Doing well. Got back from a really neat trip to Israel. Got to, nice moment of little serenity for a moment, and just a minor blip, and good to be back.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. Well, you know me, I don't really travel much. I mean, I do travel. I just don't travel as often as you do. I mean, I don't think anybody travels as often as Seth Price does. But I've been hard at work, focusing on how I can make my firm better. And I want to talk to you a little bit about AI tools, because last week I posted an AI book prompt in our Facebook group that really took off. A lot of engagement, a lot of people liking it, got a bunch of DMs. And so I'm going to release another AI prompt this week. And I want to talk to you a little bit about AI intake, because as somebody who's got a ton of people doing intake across multiple practice areas, and I've got my practice area, I'm starting to see a lot of tools out there dealing with AI and intake, either AI receptionists who are screening calls, or AI services that can listen to your calls and give you feedback. It seems like AI and intake has really taken off, maybe a lot more so than AI and legal services delivery. What do you think?
Look, we are testing like crazy. And I know you were an early adopter. Let's divide the question, right? Two different sides. There's AI sort of intake. Instead of a human speaking, there's AI. And there's a handful of companies, a handful. Every day I get another one to test. And they're getting there, right? A lot better than we looked at it a year ago. We're testing right now, and again, using the J. Ruane 6-month rule. I'm not excited about any of them, but there are enough that we're willing to give overnight time to. I am not seeing it. Look, I also feel like I have a good enough intake that I'm not there. There are people out there with really shitty intake that even though AI is not perfect, people are like, you may miss a great case. Yes, but your team itself may not answer the call at all.
Right.
Our clients say my calls are down, and you call, and they don't answer. I had a woman networked with a woman who wanted to catch up with and chat with, who had a firm in Maryland. I called her up, and 3 minutes it rang, and nobody ever picked up. Crazy.
Yeah, that's a real problem. Even post-COVID, one of the biggest challenges is that the U.S. based call centers are at their breaking point when it comes to getting staff. The overseas ones, there may be delay in the technology, which causing, and for clients who are calling in, not having something pick up right away is a problem. So that's why a lot of people do go to AI, because it answers right away.
I don't know if it was McCree or somebody else. I think the limiting factor, technology is getting there. It's getting better and better. That said, it's still not there. We have companies that start talking in French randomly. All sorts of random stuff happening. So I think it's not as much the technology which needs to get there, but what is somebody willing to talk to? Like, meaning, is it overnight people have a higher threshold of speaking to the AI?
I would think so. I mean, here's the thing. I mean, from me and my perspective as a criminal defense lawyer, it's not just taking the call. There's a sales component to it that I don't think AI is necessarily going to be able to do anytime soon.
Tee it up.
Sure.
Look, it's so funny because one of my PI partners always talks about, intake is very different for criminal as it is for personal injury. It's one call close. Whoever answers the phone in a perfect world is closing the case, so you comply with ethics laws. In criminal, you're essentially selling a free consultation, which isn't all that hard compared to asking for money. Even family law, where there's an actual, many people charge family or immigration, charge a consultation fee. And assuming you're doing that, there is more of a sales component. And so, look, go for it, right? I don't think anything is perfect right now. It is getting better by the month. But what I would say is a lot of this has to do with when are people comfortable with it? And different parts of the country are probably different. Yelp, very big on the West Coast, Bay Area. Yelp was huge. Connecticut, nobody probably looked at Yelp for a lawyer. So
not at all.
Similarly, Connecticut may be a little bit less, happy with an AI voice, whereas in the Bay Area, People are used to that all the time. They see the self-driving cars going up and down the highway, testing for months, years. This is not new. Waymo's out there, but way before Waymo, if you're in the Bay Area, you saw self-driving cars. You still do everywhere being tested. So to me, some of it is where are people as far as that need, and is there a difference between after hours and during the day? I don't know, but those are the things. So that's one half of the equation. The other half is the scoring, and are you able to coach in real time what's going on? And some of it's there. All of them seem to have a delay, 30 seconds, a minute, etc. And the question is, some of this reminds me of the dot-com era, right? That was my night, the night before I left Big Law, and everybody had a dot-com. There were 6 pet food different companies, and they all pretty much disappeared. Maybe the top one worked and sold to Amazon, right? When the bubble burst in 2000, 2001. And so, to me, are the Zooms and the Ring Centrals just going to incorporate something and everything else is going to be roadkill? Is that how this stuff ends? There'll be some winners, but you see all these people with third-party pieces. Some are better than others, but is this all going to be centralized? And whether it's HubSpot, whether it's Salesforce, is something going to be integrated that you're not going to be using a third party? I don't know. There's a lot of people dancing around it. We're testing like crazy. I've yet to see the killer application, but the idea that your voice over IP, will that eventually have that baked in? And that's really the question. One of the reasons I think Clio has done so well is they raised enough money that they were able to, for the most part, keep up with technology and best practices. Not on AI, but everything else. Hopefully they catch up on AI. They used to invest $1 billion in buying an AI company. So presumably they're doing
that. And I mean, and that's one of the things. I mean, I think, part of the issue is that there are third-party providers that you can plug into your phone system, and they seem to have promise. And depending on your work area, the niche that you're in, it may be worthwhile for you to look at it. I think eventually most VoIP phone systems will include some sort of this because it seems to be becoming ubiquitous. But I think, what we have to realize is that while we are doing things, everything else is sort of happening around us as well. Like one of the things that happened recently is Google released their workplace workflows, right? And so now when you used to zap something from your email into your drive and that type of thing, well, now Google will do that natively once you get it set up. And so those are the types of things, like you may go all in on getting a provider, and 3 months from now, your phone system might say, "Oh, we can just flip a switch and turn it on for you."
Has taken a hit.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because now the Google Calendar, Google scheduling tool is there. It makes it very easy to just.
It's sort of like Craigslist used to do 100 different things, and now there's businesses for each. And I feel like the G Suite has been eating into that.
I'm sure. And the question then becomes, how much do you want to go deeper into the G Suite? I mean, for you, you're an Android guy, so like that's great for you if the G Suite keeps opening up. For me, I'm a Mac-based person, and it kills me that I use a Google Calendar, but every time I click a link, it tries to drop it into the Apple Calendar that I don't use. It's kind of a pain in the ass that way. But that's interesting. But what I wanted to say was, last week I posted a book creation prompt that you can use. And since we were talking about AI and specifically about phone calls, we actually, independent of any outside product, we're recording our calls using Zapier to get a transcript, then using Google App Scripts to take the transcript, upload it, run it with a prompt in Claude. I mean, we were doing some funky stuff that basically burned a weekend. And now you can go to a third-party provider and get that. But I'm going to post in the group an AI call analysis prompt. So you can take a transcript of one of your calls, upload it with this prompt, and you can actually get an analysis of what your intake people are doing well, how they're scoring. And what we did when we did this over the last 6 months is we saw people who were scoring 70, 80% of the things they were supposed to hit on the call. When we provided the feedback, went over the calls with them, showed them their scores, we got consistently above 90%, which is much better than consistently above 70%. So what must get measured matters.
No, and I applaud you for what you're doing. One of the things that I got is a lot of the products out there are PI centric. So the
Right.
fact that you're doing it out of that, A, I love, and B, you got to be careful because we're testing a lot of these products. And one of the things we'll find is it will ding people. And again, it'll figure this out. But it'll ding people for a client we don't want. And then come up with, oh, they didn't close the deal. Well, of course they didn't close the deal. So these are the things that we got to figure out. So it's like anything else. It's a tool, and it's getting better and better. It's just not quite there yet.
Yeah, I can remember back in the early 2000s, I had a binder. Just to tell you how long back. I mean, there were no such thing as Google Sheets. I don't even know if I even knew what Excel was at that time, but I would have Hotbot, Lycos, Google, Yahoo, and I would run searches and I would see where I ranked, and I keep these binders and I track myself over time. It's kind of the same thing with the AI products out there. You got Grok, you got Claude, you got ChatGPT, you got Gemini, you got all of these different platforms. You got to see sort of which one works best for your use case and your use needs. So if you're running a prompt on one, maybe run it on 3 or 4 of them and see what sort of response you get, because you may find that, hey, Gemini really works well. Or Gemini can crush PDFs a lot better than ChatGPT can. Claude's sort of in the middle. I haven't really tested Grok for that. So it really comes down to what is the best use case and which is the best tool, because they are not all the same, right?
No, absolutely. Great points. Something, I'm going to pivot for a second, something you and I talked about offline. We've talked about it many times before on the show, but I feel like it's almost becoming comical. The business model of many people outside of PI is to get people who have worked for the government, immigration people who work for that sector, criminal in particular, people.
Yeah, you get DAs or public defenders easily.
Right. And it's awesome with tuition being through the freaking moon. A whole other question for another day. There's a lot of schools have these 10-year debt forgiveness programs. You stay public interest, and that sounds great academically. It is making the job of somebody trying to hire in the private sector really difficult. We are now 2 out of the last 3 viable candidates that I've gotten, and they're few and far between, as we've talked about. Very hard to find people that hit your core values, everything else, are stuck with a year and a half to go on debt forgiveness.
And yeah, I mean, you can't take them away from that.
And the worst part is
you're not a good partner in their career.
I agree. And I've always said philosophically, when I talk to people during the interview, I have to make you better off with me than without me. I say, economically and otherwise. And the struggle is real. I don't know what to do about it, but I don't know whether we're now, for the first time, talking about full circle, we are now looking at going back to summer programs, or at very least third year law school, second semester clerkships, and actually going to have to put together training programs. Now, the good deal is we're much more sophisticated on training, but I'm now going back Jay Ruane style to hiring people out of school and hoping. And then the question is, how many people do you take in to get one?
Well, that's the thing. You hire one, they may flame out and decide, oh, I don't like doing this type of law, and then they go someplace else within 3 months.
Well, the idea of doing the clerkship is different, right? In theory, they know what they're getting. In theory, right? You're not.
Yeah, but here's my problem with people right out of law school. For many people, they did 4 years in high school, then changed and went 4 years in college, then changed and went 3 years in law school. And the problem is that after 2.5, 3 years, their body's been programmed that it's time for a change. Time for a change no matter what. So
I'll take the 2.5 years. That's the issue I'm having. You ask me that 2.5 years, I may not be as excited. Right. But it is a risk factor for our business. For the first time ever, and granted we have 50 lawyers, so it's not like there's nobody, but for the first time ever, I have open seats.
Wow.
Like, not where I want growth, but where I've actually not been able to fill something, and I'm at negative revenue, where the marketing is producing people and I don't have a lawyer to do it. And look, if you take the real estate idiom, that means they're just not paying enough, right? You pay enough, you get somebody, in theory. But I'm not even seeing that. Like, yes, if you paid big firm money, I'm sure somebody would come over. But we're doing everything. For years we could hire and get people that could both perform and sell, and now we're saying, okay, take the selling off the table. We'll use the J. Ruane. We use the attorney salesperson, use the non-attorney salesperson. Whatever it is, we're gonna handicap it. So you don't have to sell anymore. It is real. The struggle is real.
Let me ask you a question about that. You have lawyers who sell themselves, and you deliver them leads. You also now have a non-attorney sale. You have an attorney salesperson, and you're eating the cost of that attorney salesperson, right? That.
And I did not change the deal for my people.
Okay, that was my next question. Because
my logic was that I can sell more with that person that covers their cost and makes it cost effective.
Sure. But are the people who have to sell for themselves saying, "Hey, man, I could recapture some time and bill on that time"?
The people that want to sell for themselves beat the attorney salesperson, right? Those are the rock stars. I wish if somebody wanted me to do more, I'm there. For me, the struggle is pulling those people, getting people to agree, because they're so incentivized. But we just had 2 people leave the firm, and in each case, this was part of the rub. Was in one case somebody wasn't returning phone calls. They weren't bigger issue probably, but we were like, "Why aren't you returning calls?" And she said, "Well, I'm driving all the time." I'm like, "Isn't that what the drive time is for?"
I've made more phone calls driving my car than I have outside of my car.
I just came back from Israel with one of my partners who, he's a madman. He drives all over the place. He made a whole career with car time. It pays him a very nice, very, very nice living by doing it that way. So, part of it is she's to be fair, she's a very good practitioner, but she was not into the hustle. And if I can somehow keep that person by handing them cases, they go to court. Now, there are other issues. If somebody's that dysfunctional, and I say that our world is, then there are other issues. They've gone dark to our staff. I mean, stuff like that.
Oh, sure.
It is a real thing. And so
now that you've taken, and this is a question for you, now that you've taken the selling off the plate
of
some attorneys in some practice areas, and you have an alternative for selling, has that opened up the doors to more candidates who are like, "Hey, I'd love to come work with you, but I don't sell, I just grind work"?
Well, very few people. I wish it was perfect, and I can tell you, hallelujah. What I can tell you is it saved current attorneys whose numbers were good, and the seller doubled their revenue.
Oh, well, that's huge.
That's huge, right? Perfectly fine lawyer, great, very good courtroom. So I wish I could tell you I've had a flood of people but it's what I'm seeing. I started this was I have a very wide net right now, and we aren't hitting it out of the park. Meaning I'm taking the step to do exactly what you're saying, which I should be able to hire more people. It's what's the delta between people, generally the people with our core values, with what we want, can do both. I'm hoping that, as you just said, that there are people that are really good but aren't great at the sale component, and I'm sure there will be, but it has not been the panacea that I hoped it would, but it's certainly not going to hurt.
Yeah, I'm wondering, do you actually list that in the job listings that are out there? Like, you won't have to do any sales.
Right, we are adding that to it. We probably should.
Yeah, I just thought about that as I'm sitting here, and I realized that that's not part of any of my job descriptions.
But I'm not sure that ours have it in there to begin with.
Because I have gotten attorneys in the past applying for lateral positions, and in the interviews, one of the things that have come up has been I have to do these intake consults, and I really have no interest in doing that. And we are able to respond saying, "Hey, you'll never talk to somebody until they've paid for us to be their lawyer," and that sort of lights eyes up, right? Because wait, I don't have to do any of these hour-long meetings, because I get a lot of young lawyers who are like, hey, you know, the senior comes in and says, hey, associate, go sit with this client and quote them the fee of X, because they know it's not a high value case.
We are doing this partially to retain, and God willing, the J. Ruane theory is right, and we are going to be able to, hire, because right now we are not in great shape on hiring. It is tough.
Yeah, it's tough. Listen, I mean, my summer, I told you my saga of I had a law student who was with us and failed the bar twice. Then we hired another lawyer.
Let me cut you off there. What is your theory? We have a very, very bad record, and I don't want to. A lot of people don't pass the bar the first time, but we have a very poor record on people that have failed the bar. Now, I'm not saying we've done it. It's obviously we have poor records. We don't kick people out that moment. But I'm asking you to go back and reflect, let our listeners reflect. When somebody fails the bar, how often does it turn out they stay with you, they pass it on the next time, not beyond that, and turn out to be a stellar member of the firm that is profitable for any length of time?
So I've had that happen 3 times in the last decade, where we have had clerks that were with us and then failed the bar. Both of them failed twice, and then the other one failed once. And none of them made it more than 2 years as an attorney with our firm.
But they passed it and stayed some length of time thereafter.
So one of them passed it on their second go round, stayed with us for a year, took a job with the government to be able to get loan forgiveness. Another one failed it twice, passed it on the third time, took a job at 18 months as a DA to get loan forgiveness. Third one failed it twice, then told us, I'm not taking it again. And we said, well, then we're going to cut ties. And so that's the way it was. And guess what? The bar results came out 2 weeks ago. Actually took it, still hasn't passed. So we're talking 4 times now they would have been able to do it.
That's why first-time passage rates. We've just had some historically, and look, I know people who've been very, very successful in life have failed a bar exam at first time. It's not. I don't want to put it that way, but as a business owner, statistically, we've had a lot of really bad issues.
Yeah.
If I look at the number, probably 80% have had some form of drama. And part of it's what you're saying. If somebody fails it twice, that means they've been with you for at least a year or more if they were a clerk before. So they don't think they've been with you for a year. They think they've been with you for 2.5 years.
Right. And I mean, part of the problem is that, I think if they do pass and start practicing, they're anxious to start anew at a new place that doesn't know them, having failed the bar. I think there's a little bit of that as well. Like they want to go in clean. And like you've told me, they also come out of my firm with, now they have more value on the street.
No, that's always the case. Let me land the plane with this, which, Jay with his systems and AI, something that I struggle with, right? We've, made a lot of great hires. We have people with us, multiple people with us 12, 15, 17 years at this point. That's awesome. But we've made a lot of bad hires over the years. Have we ever taken the time to put our bad hires into some sort of a formula for the AI that's going to be possible to find out what are those commonalities?
That would be awesome.
At going in and said, oh yeah, I'm good with that. Whether it be bar failure, whether it be, because I'm saying the bar failure, it's not for length of time. I'll discount that. Are these people that left with bad reviews at the end? Are these people, that did a bad glass door on the way out the door? Like how much, if you could have avoided drama over the years, what are those red flags? We're talking about personality, has all this stuff, but I would love to be able to figure out, everybody does exit interviews. If you put the 3 factors in and then amalgamate it so that you could get back out there. Or were there times where you're like, hey, I know I'm walking into massive risk, but I don't have anybody else and I might as well take a shot because there's a 40% chance this person works out and I got nobody else.
Yeah, I mean, not having anybody else really puts you in a bind. I think, part of the problem I've always found traditionally with exit interviews is that people tell you what they think you want to hear, not
Oh,
necessarily
no.
the truth.
I don't need the exit interview just that. I'm saying it's what
Right,
they're saying that you make a decision as to, okay, person melts down. When I look back, it's like a postmortem, the FAA. When the FAA looks at the crash, they
right.
say, what led up to this? And you're saying, was this something that happened on the assembly line way back? Is it a maintenance issue? Maybe a little bit of everything. But what is it that's causing, is there something that we could learn statistically that I hate to
Yeah,
use.
it makes a lot of sense. I think you'd have to, I mean, the prompt for that would be very long. I think one of the challenges is that, you need critical mass of people to be able to get to those decisions. And I don't know that most firms in our listening audience will have critical mass of that many people leaving. That's going to be
No, but then we could share it with others if we could
Oh,
amalgamate.
okay.
If everybody gave us their worst 3 meltdowns, and I'll take it a different way, which I've always thought, study I've always wanted to see. If they put 100,000 marriages and looked at what were the ones that worked and what were the ones that didn't, and you put factors like same religion, age you got married, income, all those things, are there any things that could tell you that look, if 50% of marriages end in divorce, what are the factors that make it 80%, and what are the factors that make it 20%? Right? If you dated for 2 years before you got married, is that going to give you a better shot of knowing what's going on? If you get married after 25, before 25, are there any benchmarks? And then coming back here, what are the factors that were staring us in the face that are sitting there? We were talking using the marriage analogy. Somebody had I was in Israel. Somebody used somebody who was later in life dating, and they're like, I know everybody has baggage. I just want baggage that fits in the overhead. And I thought that was brilliant.
Mine was I want baggage. I want a matching set. Like I want to know what I can handle this type of baggage.
Well, as long as it's the overhead, I can deal with it. I just don't want the stuff that needs to be checked and you pay the overage because it's too heavy for the regular ticket, or that's going to be oversized place where the skis come out.
I get you. I mean, look. The reality is that there are so many moving parts when it comes to running a firm that you really have to make conscious decisions along the way. What's certain
focus on this. I want you to give some thought. I think there's something here that if we could forget the marriage one, we'll leave that to somebody else. But if we took our greatest meltdowns and looked at it, are there any things that we could say that would prevent it for ourselves, or frankly, any of our listeners who are sort of making those earlier hires?
Well, I can tell you what I think right off the top. It's your active need because a lot of times everybody who's listening to this is hiring because I need a body now. Somebody just left. And I think honestly, as I have learned and matured in my role here, we are starting a process now that we're gonna limp through until we get the right person, and we're gonna continue hiring. And then as you find gold, I will find them work. I will up budgets. I'll do whatever's necessary. We'll break things down. But every time I have hired somebody because somebody left and I hired the first warm body thinking I'll get through with them, even if it's for, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, at some point, a lot sooner than I would like, there's a flame out. And that's really the thing. You almost, you can't hire from need. You got to hire from desire.
Well, right. So look, best player on the draft board. Got it. Essentially what you're saying. And look, easier said than done. But as I mentioned, I have a couple slots open. The younger me would have just found people and put them in.
I'm the exact same way. I have this. I think I was telling you before we came online. I have this floater lawyer position that I want to fill. I've been trying to fill it for 18 months. Once I fill it, we're going to be in great shape. But I'm not just going to fill the next warm body. I've got a couple of applicants who won't let me alone. But I know they're not the right person because of their baggage, because of their prior work experiences, their prior locations, who they've been with. They're not the right person. And despite me posting the job, I'm not going to bring them in and watch them flame out in 6 months.
No, and look, I know we got to land the plane here, but I'll conclude with two thoughts. One that's helped us is focusing on core values of hiring, like moving away from just a plaque on the wall. But if you buy into your core values and using that, I think that's helped a lot. A, and B, it's again, this is they say hire slow, fire fast, and that's a lot easier said than done.
Oh, yeah.
But we both know that we've kept people because we're like, we'll hold on until we get out. It's
Well, because we're nice people. We don't want to, like my last person, I could have fired after she failed the bar once.
It's that you're limping along, and if that person's gone, you're like, you think it's going to have issues with the people there, they'll get overworked. And you're trying to just get through the day. Again, it's easier to talk about in hindsight. When you're sitting there at the time playing chess, you're like, I'll get an extra month out of this person, even though I know they're working 50 cents on the dollar. And it turns out they're working negative 20.
Yeah, you're right. So, folks, that's going to do it this week here on the Law Firm Blueprint. Thank you for being with us. Of course, you can take us anywhere you want to go by subscribing to the Law Firm Blueprint podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to check out this week in the Law Firm Blueprint Facebook group. I'm going to be posting my AI call prompt that you can use. If you get a transcript of your calls, you can run them through this prompt and score your intake people. You may even want to score yourself to see how you do in that context. But that's going to do it for us this week. Next week, I'm actually traveling. I'm heading off to Charleston for the AI Era Conference. Going to meet up with about 100 and something people to learn all about AI. I'll be speaking about master prompting. So it'll be some good stuff. If I get a copy of it, I'll be sure to put it up in the Facebook group as well.
Which day is it?
That is Thursday. I am speaking Thursday the 13th down in Charleston. I'm the first speaker. I'm kicking off the show according to the agenda. So it'll be great, and I'm going to get myself some Rodney Scott barbecue. If you know, you know. That is well worth the trip to Charleston just for that. So thank you all for being with us. I'm Jay Ruane. He is Seth Price. Bye for now.